I don't know, Rosie. We're not friends.
That sentence. One sentence destroyed 30 years of friendship on live television. And Ellen said it like it was nothing.
The way she treated me must be the way she treats others. And I felt, very betrayed.
But here's what most people don't know. Rosie wasn't just hurt. She was protecting something. She was protecting the truth about what Ellen was really doing behind closed doors. She knew what Rosie was holding her secrets. And in a desperate attempt to play nice, Ellen publicly shared Rosie's post with a caption that said, "Good for you, Rosie." After ignoring her for 20 years, rejecting their friendship on national television, suddenly, Ellen wanted to be supportive? That wasn't reconciliation. That was panic. And when Rosie posted that photograph of Jeffrey Epstein next to her Ireland announcement, she wasn't just saying goodbye to Hollywood, she was sending a warning to everyone who knew what really happened. The story you're about to hear isn't just about Ellen DeGeneres. It's about a 30-year silence that's finally being broken. It's about a friendship that became a casualty of Hollywood's darkest secrets. And it's about one woman who decided that staying quiet wasn't an option anymore. No matter how powerful the people she was about to expose actually are. Let me take you back to 2004. Ellen DeGeneres was on top of the world. Her talk show was just hitting its stride. The ratings were climbing, the endorsement deals were rolling in, and she was being positioned as America's sweetheart. But Rosie O'Donnell saw something different. She saw a friend she'd known for 3 decades slowly disappearing into an elite circle that Rosie recognized immediately for what it was. The Hollywood Ellen had always talked about. The one with heart, with real people, with genuine connections. That wasn't the real Hollywood. And when Ellen finally got access to the actual inner sanctum, when she started flying private and attending island parties and rubbing shoulders with billionaires and powerful men, Rosie watched it happen. She saw the transformation. She saw the moment her friend became someone else entirely. Then came Larry King Live.
Larry King asked her, and Kelly and I were in bed watching it, and he asked her, "Whatever happened to Rosie O'Donnell? Her show went down the tubes." And Ellen said, "I don't know, Rosie. We're not friends." And that was like one of the most painful things that ever happened to me in show business in my life.
That wasn't just a dismissal. That was a message. Ellen was saying, I'm not connected to that life anymore. I'm not connected to you anymore. I'm moving up. But the pain Rosie felt in that moment was nothing compared to what she would learn in the years that followed. Because as Ellen climbed higher into those elite circles, as she gained access to private islands and exclusive gatherings, Rosie realized something terrifying. Ellen wasn't just making new friends. She was being integrated into a network. And that network had a darkness to it that Rosie couldn't ignore. For years, Rosie just watched. She watched Ellen dance around on television, handing out cars and giving away prizes and telling everyone to be kind. Be kind, Ellen would say over and over again. Be kind. Treat each other with respect, share love and positivity. But behind closed doors, behind the cameras, that wasn't what was happening at all.
The biggest common thread that everyone told me is that what goes on behind the scenes is a far cry from what the show represents in their be kind messaging and what the show and what Ellen DeGeneres herself profits.
Ellen had built an empire on a lie. 2 words. Be kind. That was her brand. That was how she convinced America that she was different, that she actually cared, that she was genuinely nice. But Hollywood knew better. The people on the inside, they knew exactly who Ellen was. Everyone knew, and everyone stayed quiet. That's how the system works. You don't speak up. You don't rock the boat. You keep your mouth shut, and you keep climbing. But Rosie couldn't do that anymore. Not after she learned what Ellen was actually involved in. Not after she understood that the silence she'd kept for 30 years was complicity. Something changed for Rosie around 2020. The workplace toxicity scandal broke. Suddenly, the mask was slipping. Employees were coming forward. They were describing Ellen as authoritarian, cruel, dismissive.
One makeup artist was quoted as saying that when he tried to make small talk with Ellen, she supposedly said, "Who do you think you are? Don't look at me."
Don't look at me. Those words are chilling when you understand what they really mean. Ellen wasn't just being rude. She was asserting dominance. She was establishing a hierarchy. She was showing people that she was above them, that they weren't worthy of her attention, that the rules didn't apply to her. And the worst part, there was a human cost to all of this. Steven Twitch Boss was the DJ on Ellen's show for years. But when the workplace scandal broke in 2020, Ellen put pressure on him to publicly defend her. His wife, who has looked into this whole thing, believes that kind of pressure and stress played a big role in what happened to him later. Twitch was forced to go on camera and say that everything was fine, that Ellen was a good person, that the reports were overblown.
He was going through so much, and he was hiding so much, and there must have been a lot of shame in that. And he was wrestling with a lot inside himself, and he was trying to self-medicate and cope with all those feelings because he didn't want to put it on anyone.
In December 2022, Steven Twitch Boss passed away. The show had ended. His routine was gone, and according to sources close to him, he was still dealing with the trauma of being forced to defend someone who didn't deserve defending. That's the real cost of Ellen's empire. That's what happens when someone builds their brand on kindness while treating people like they're disposable. But the workplace scandal, that was just the surface. The real story was happening in the background, and when the Epstein files finally dropped, everything started connecting. Ellen's name was in those files, and it wasn't just a peripheral mention. It was there alongside flight logs, communications, and third-party interviews.
DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. Flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records.
Now, here's where it gets complicated, because immediately after these files dropped, the internet exploded with theories, wild theories, accusations of cannibalism, vampirism, underground networks, claims so extreme and so unsubstantiated that they actually served a purpose. They gave the media cover to dismiss the entire Epstein narrative.
Claims circulating right now that the Epstein files reveal Ellen DeGeneres as, and I'm quoting this directly from the posts, Hollywood's most prolific cannibal, that she consumed human flesh. People are sharing distorted images of her face, writing paragraphs about underground dystopias, calling her a vampire. Now, these are completely unfounded claims with no evidence to back them up.
And that's the trap, because when you flood the internet with fake conspiracy theories, you discredit anyone trying to talk about the real ones. You make people who ask legitimate questions sound crazy. You make the actual evidence seem laughable. But here's what we know for certain. Ellen's name is in the Epstein files. Being named in an investigative file about someone like Jeffrey Epstein isn't something that happens by accident. It means you had access to that circle. It means you were part of that network. And Rosie knew. Rosie had known for 30 years. She'd watched Ellen transition from a regular person into someone with elite access. She'd seen the moment Ellen got invited to the private islands, the exclusive parties, the gatherings where the rules didn't apply. There's one moment from Ellen's show that stands out. One interview that, when you look back at it now, reveals everything. It's the Sandra Bullock segment. And they're talking about a beauty treatment, a facial. And Ellen is describing it in this strange, almost coded way.
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby.
And so we call it, I call it facial.
Listen to how carefully Ellen is choosing her words. A young person, far, far away. And then Sandra responds with this knowing laugh, like they're in on something, like they're hinting at something that the people watching at home aren't supposed to understand.
And I think when you see how good it is to your face, you too will run to your local facialist and say, give me the...
They're joking about it. They're being casual about it. But when you understand what Rosie knows, when you understand what the Epstein files reveal about the networks that Ellen was part of, that conversation takes on a completely different meaning. Ellen wasn't just casually talking about skincare. She was hinting at the existence of something darker, something she shouldn't have been openly referencing on live television. But she was so arrogant, so confident that nobody would put the pieces together that she felt safe enough to hint at it anyway. And then there's the Wayfair scandal. The industrial cabinets being sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Cabinets mysteriously named after real children who had recently gone missing. Online investigators started connecting the dots, not just about money laundering, but about human trafficking, about the infrastructure that allows networks like Epstein's to operate in plain sight. And when people started digging deeper, they found something that chilled them to the bone. They compared the actual buildings on Epstein Island to the set design of Ellen's talk show, and the resemblance was unmistakable.
Owned the image of the temple that was on the island. Look at it.
Oh, well, you know where that is too, right? It's a similar image to that, right?
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen? Was that Ellen?
Yeah.
Ellen didn't just have a television studio. She built a replica of Epstein's architecture. She recreated the same design elements, the same aesthetic, the same vibe. Why would she do that? Why would someone recreate the physical space of a place they were supposedly just casually connected to? Unless she wasn't just casually connected. Unless she was intimately familiar with that space. Unless that space meant something to her. This is the kind of detail that Rosie would have noticed. This is the kind of thing that when you've been in these circles for as long as Rosie had been, you recognize immediately. When the Epstein Epstein files started dropping. Ellen knew it was over. She knew exactly what was in those documents. She knew her name would surface, and she knew that when it did, the questions would start. The investigations would start. The authorities might start looking at her finances, her assets, her connections. So she did what any person does when they're facing the possibility of criminal charges and asset seizures. She liquidated everything.
She started doing what other celebrities have always done.
So I'm going to start selling some things that I consider art because, you know, they're art.
But this wasn't a slow, careful sale of her collection over time. This was a fire sale. Emergency liquidation. She moved $10 million worth of art in weeks. Gone. Sold to buyers who probably knew exactly what was happening. She dumped Jean-Michel Basquiat paintings. She sold custom sheep sculptures valued at $1 million each. Pieces of her soul, if she had one. And the real estate. The California Bluff Top Estate, $96 million. Gone. Then the beach bungalow in Montecito, originally listed at $29 million. Then pulled because they thought they could get more. Then relisted at $33.9 million. Then, as the panic set in, dropped right back to $29 million. They didn't care about making money anymore. They just needed liquidity. They needed cash in hand.
According to TMZ, she has moved 2 hours outside of London.
Ellen and her wife Portia packed up and left the country, but they needed a cover story. They needed something the public would accept without asking too many questions. So they blamed the presidential election.
A source close to Ellen and her wife Portia de Rossi told The Wrap that the couple has placed their Montecito home on the market and have decided to relocate to the Cotswolds in England due to the political climate in the United States.
But here's the thing. They bought that house in England months before the election even happened. The entire political narrative was a lie. A convenient excuse to hide what they were really running from. They weren't fleeing because they were upset about election results. They were fleeing because they knew the Epstein files were about to become public. They knew their name would be in there. They knew the questions would start, and they panicked. Now, there's something in the Epstein files that gives us insight into how these networks actually work. There's an interview that Steve Bannon did with Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. This was supposedly to help rehabilitate Epstein's image, and in it, Epstein talks about something fascinating. He talks about how world leaders are financially illiterate.
Most political leaders don't come out of a background of finance. Most political leaders come out of a background of being popular. So in some of the countries, except in the African countries, for example, they might have been a military person. They were a general. Or in our country, they would have been an actor.
This is crucial because what Epstein is describing is a system where people with real financial power, people like him, can manipulate leaders who don't understand money, who don't have the expertise to see what's happening. And Ellen understood the system. She understood that access and visibility and the right connections were how you moved up in that world.
No degrees in finance. They really, and this is one of the major problems. So many world leaders who don't really have a financial underpinning make fundamental errors when it comes to money on a country or institutional level.
Ellen became part of a financial and social network that operated on principles most people don't understand. She became integrated into a system designed to protect its own members. And when that system was threatened by the Epstein files, the entire apparatus kicked in to protect her. But there's one person who couldn't be protected by that system. There's one person who had the knowledge, the platform, and most importantly, the courage to step outside of it. Rosie O'Donnell. By moving to Ireland, Rosie positioned herself outside the reach of Hollywood's machinery, outside their jurisdiction, outside their media ecosystem, outside all the pressure points they normally use to silence people.
And the beast we're fighting is not just that round guy in an orange spray tan. It's a big cabal of powerful white men. And it's time to end it.
When Rosie posted that photograph of Jeffrey Epstein next to her announcement that she was leaving America, she wasn't just saying goodbye. She was sending a message, a warning, a declaration that she was done being silent. For 30 years, Rosie kept quiet. 30 years of watching Ellen climb. 30 years of knowing what that climb actually meant. 30 years of holding secrets that could have destroyed careers, exposed crimes, revealed networks that powerful people desperately wanted to keep hidden. And then one day, she decided it was enough. Ellen is in England now. She's in some stone house in the Cotswolds, far away from the cameras and the studios and the bright lights. And she knows that no matter how hard the media tries to spin things, the truth is out there. The evidence is in her actions. The confession is in her panic. An innocent person doesn't sell $10 million worth of art and flee the country in the middle of the night. An innocent person doesn't abandon their entire empire overnight. An innocent person doesn't run, but Ellen ran. And Rosie's warning echoes across the internet now, reaching millions of people who finally understand. After 30 years of silence, the truth is coming out, and no amount of branding, no amount of media manipulation, no amount of protection from the system can stop it anymore. The warning has been issued, and everyone connected to Epstein's network is listening,